Good afternoon. My name is Tom Beaker, and I'd like to welcome you to the Nebraska State Historical Society's Brown Bag Lecture Series, held here at the Nebraska History Museum the third Thursday of every month. A detailed schedule for this series, as well as information about Historical Society activities and programs, can be found at our website, www.nebraskahistory.org. Before I introduce today's speaker, I would like to thank the Nebraska State Historical Society Foundation for funding the filming of these lectures. Their financial support allows us to tape and broadcast these programs on public access television. Our presenter today is James Vannurden, the director and curator of the National Roller Skating Museum here in Lincoln at 48 and South Street. James is a Kansas native from Pittsburgh, Kansas, and he's been the director curator for 5 years here at the Roller Skating Museum. And today he's going to tell us about the museum and its collections. So, James?
Well, thank you, Tom. Thanks to the Nebraska State Historical Society for having me today. As Tom said, my name is James Vannurden. I'm the director and curator of the National Museum of Roller Skating, located here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Just a short history on our museum before we get started. As you can see by our sign, the National Museum of Roller Skating is also located within the headquarters of an organization called USA Roller Sports. USA Roller Sports is the governing body of all competitive roller skating in the United States. So they fund towards the roller skating athlete. Not only do they do the artistic figure skating, the speed skating, roller hockey, and roller derby, but they are also in charge of coaches and judges and memberships, insurance, all catered toward the roller skating athlete. So USA Roller Sports has been located here in Lincoln since the 1960s, and it is actually their building that we are in as the National Museum of Roller Skating. They let us be in their building. One of the questions I get a lot is, why is our museum located in Lincoln, Nebraska, of all places? Well, it starts out with the story of USA Roller Sports. Originally, their organization was called the Roller Skating Rink Operators Association, or the RSROA. They were founded in 1937 in Detroit, Michigan. And their job was to clean up skating at that time period. There was not a lot of organization in the 1930s with roller skating. They wanted to come together and create an organization to make roller skating a safer environment for families. So when this organization was founded, that was their goal. When Lincoln hosted the 1962 National Championships, the city of Lincoln really took towards these competitions. We had a parade down O Street. We had a bunch of different activities catered towards the roller skating athletes that came to Lincoln in 1962. Lincoln really took towards these competitions and invited the Roller Skating Association back in later years to host their championships as well. So Lincoln hosted 1964, 1967. So Lincoln started gaining that roller skating perspective in the 1960s. Well, when the city of Lincoln found out that the RSROA was looking to relocate to a more centralized location in the United States, they really lobbied for the RSROA to come here to Lincoln. So the RSROA decided to move to Lincoln in the late 1960s and were given small little tax breaks, land grant, things like that, to move their association to Lincoln. They built a brand new building on 77th and A Street, and that is where their first headquarters were located here in Lincoln. Now the RSROA in the late 1970s decided to split up their organization into two parts. The RSROA, as I said, mainly focused on the rink operators, and they wanted to create a new organization to cater towards just the athletes. So the RSROA split into two. They became the RSA, which is the Roller Skating Association, and then they became USA Roller Sports. So these two organizations were in the same building on 7700 A Street for a few years. And it was both of these organizations that came together to create our museum on 77th and A, housed in their headquarters as well. So the museum was founded in 1980, but the doors originally opened in 1982 after about a year of acquiring enough materials to create a nice museum. Well, when the RSA decided to move its location to Indianapolis in the 1980s, they decided that it was best for the museum to stay here in Lincoln as it had been established originally, and they were housed in the facility with the USA Roller Sports. Now, in order to expand their space, the USA Roller Sports organization moved to their current building on 4730 South Street in late 1990. This building was originally a telephone switching station, and that organization has moved directly across the street to the east of us, and so that is why we are located in this building on 48th and O Street. Now, the history of roller skating dates back to the 1760s with the first documented use of roller skating in history. A man named John Joseph Merlin, who's originally from Belgium, but at this time had moved to London, England, was an instrument maker by trade. He made violins and small instruments like this as his trade. But on the side, he dabbled with inventions. So one of his inventions was a roller skate that he attached to his shoe. So Mr. Merlin, to show off his new invention to the public, he was invited to a ball in London at that time. And so to enter the ball, he made a grand entrance on a pair of his roller skates while playing a violin that he made. So you can imagine him rolling into the ball in the 1760s, as I told you, as the time period. So he's rolling in on his pair of roller skates, playing a violin, making a grand spectacle of himself. And although with his skate, he did not create a break for his skate. So he was rolling around doing a nice job and everything, but he was unable to stop. Actually, he ended up crashing into a large mirror, shattering it into 100 pieces, cutting himself up very nicely, made a big fool of himself at this party that he went to. So John Joseph Merlin and his roller skate was not really thought of much after this point, but this was how roller skating was introduced to the history books. Now, to get on to our collection, all of the skates that we have in our museum are original copies of the actual skates from those time periods. The oldest skate in our collection was the first patented roller skate. This was patented in Paris, France, by a gentleman named Monsieur Petitbled in 1819. So he was the one to have the first patented roller skate. And this skate would attach to your shoe, as was at that time period. By looking at this photograph, you can see that this particular roller skate, it has 3 wheels, 2 in the front and 1 in the back. But these wheels are in line with each other and not spread apart like the roller skate that we know to today. So actually the first roller skate was an inline roller skate, as you can see from this photograph. The body was made of wood, it had leather straps, and the wheels could come in 3 different types of material. You could have wooden wheels, metal wheels, or even ivory wheels. The skate that we have in our collection has wooden wheels, but you can see that this first patented skate was an inline skate. It was meant to mimic ice skating at that time. So ice skating has the very thin blade, and so this is how they came up with a roller skate. They wanted to use the same type of motion on the ice as you could use in parlor skating or on street skating. So the very first patented roller skate was an inline skate, and it was all inline skates for the first 40, 50 years at that time. Early inline skates, as I said, were all inline skates. This picture here was from a German-composed opera in the 1840s. Meant to mimic ice skating up on stage, they created their own type of roller skate. So that's why this picture here has a blade coming out of the top, because it's meant to look like ice skating up on stage. This play was so popular that it created a big craze in Europe at that time, and many people started buying this type of roller skate. So they had to manufacture this roller skate just because of the popularity of this opera stage play at that time period. So we have a copy of this as well. Wooden body with the wooden wheels, and then they have the blade made of the metal meant to look like the ice skating. Now, as I said, the first 40, 50 years were all inline skates. The one main problem with the inline skate is skaters complained that you could not turn corners very well. So during that time period, there were a few inventors that tried to reconstruct the roller skate, all to make you turn corners better. Well, in 1863, an American named James Plimpton created this first quad roller skate. It's known as the rocking action skate because the trucks in the front and the back of the skate were able to shift when the skaters shifted their weight from side to side, a lot like a skateboard does today, so you can round corners very easily. This skate was also a clamp-on skate with a wooden frame. As I said, invented by Mr. James Plimpton of Massachusetts. He then opened a company in New York City to start manufacturing his roller skate. Mr. Plimpton had many accomplishments for his roller skate. We call him the father of modern roller skating because he was the first person to come up with the four-wheeled concept. Not only did his four-wheeled quad skate turn corners better, but it gave you more stability than the inline skates with the wheels very close together. So he invented the first quad skate. He actually instituted the first proficiency medals as well. Awards given for different types of skating, backwards and forwards and turning and things like that. He created the first proficiency medals. He opened the first American roller rink, which was located in Newport, Rhode Island, inside the Atlantic House in 1866. So this was the first American public roller rink. He invited some of the public there, clergy around that area in Rhode Island, to come and skate only using his skates. So that's why he is referred to as the father of modern roller skating, because we still use the plans today that Mr. Plimpton came up with his skate as the basis on how they make four-wheeled quad skates today. Now I'm going to talk about some of the types of competitive aspects for roller skating and how we are able to portray them in our museum. So I'm going to talk about 5 different types of competitive skating today. First, artistic skating, then speed skating, roller hockey, roller derby, and then jam skating. Now, artistic skating is a lot like you see on ice skate. So it's ice dancing, jumping around, skating with a partner, a lot like you would see on ice in the Ice National World and Olympic Championships for ice skating. So there's many different types of artistic skating that I have listed here. So we'll go through these individually. Figure skating. Figure skating, you trace the different figures on the floor. Originally, figure skating was done on just an open wooden floor, and they would put powder down, and it was the skater's job to skate on that powder and make figures of themselves skating on that surface. So judges would come up and look at the powder on the floor and the marks and how precise they were, measure the different angles and things like that when they were able to judge the figure skating. Nowadays, they have tape on the floor. Figure skaters do large figure eights while they skate on the floor, as well as small loops, and you can see how close the judges come to the figure skaters while they're skating. So it's a very precise sport, and it can be judged very critically because you have to keep your wheels on either side of the line and switch feet as you go around the different turns. So this is figure skating. Dance skating, you have one pair of skaters on the floor at one time dancing to different waltzes or tangos or different types of music like this. The one thing with dance skating is each partner has to keep one foot on the floor at all times. So there's no jumping, no throwing someone in the air like you can in singles or pair skating. Dance skating is just meant to dance along with the music and can be very beautiful that way. Single skating. Single skating, you skate by yourself and you have to accomplish a certain number of moves, jumps and flips and things like this, turns. This costume I have here is from the 2011 National Championships. A young lady named Kayla Rodriguez, who I have the picture with her in the costume next to the photo here. She won 3 different national titles at the 2011 Indoor Roller Skating Championships, one while wearing this dress. So you can see what the dresses look like today, a lot of sequins. This is actually the heaviest dress that I had, so I had to make sure it I hung it with 2 lures of fishing rod just so it could hold up, because it is very heavy. I can't imagine little Kayla, even though she was 14, 15 years old, you can see how skinny she is, how she could be able to jump and do all the turns with the single skating. Pair skating, as I said, it's very similar to dance skating, but in pair skating, your feet can leave the floor. The man and the woman competitors do dance routines as well as the choreograph to the music, as well as doing certain flips and spins and turns. It's not uncommon for the men to raise the women above their heads, even with one hand, and this is a very competitive type of artistic skating for pairs skating. Four skating. While four skating no longer exists just because of lack of participation, skaters tell me it's hard enough to find one partner to practice with, let alone find 2 couples to practice all the time. But fours is a very important part of roller skating history and very important to the competitions, especially at the beginning. You can see it's just like pair skating, but you have the 2 partners there. So not only do you have to contribute to helping your partner skate the best that he or she can, but then you have to think about the other pair as well and how they're doing. So a lot of times you'll see the group join hands in a circle, and then they would flip the ladies up and down, and so it can be very elaborate for the four skating. Precision skating. Precision skating is a group of 12 to 20 individuals all skating and dressed alike to the same dance routine. So a lot of this is, they call it precision because you have to be very precise with your moves. If you're not, you can crash into someone else on your team. They do a lot of moves that weave in and out of each other, circle around each other. So precision is a very technical sport, but it does go a little faster than the speed skating because it is meant for the show skating, for the precision skating. Now, as a whole, artistic skating has been part of the national championships since 1939. The first championships were held in 1937, and they were solely on speed skating. So speed skating, I'm going to talk about professional speed skating and amateur speed skating. This is an example of what a modern speed skate looks like. Has 4 large wheels. These wheels are about 110 millimeters, which is the standard size for competition, and the boot on top can be heated and form fit to your foot. All this for more aerodynamics. So early speed skating was all professionally based. So prior to the 1930s, if you were a good enough speed skater, you could enter different competitions at rinks across the country. You could be sponsored by different skate companies or rinks. People would be, they would have, a lot of times would have the logo of the company on their shirt, the Chicago Skate Company, for example, or the Arcadia Roller Rink, something that fixes that individual to a specific group. You could be sponsored, they would help you with your travel fees and things like that, and then you would help them out with if you won some prize money. So professional speed skating was all the rage before the 1930s, as I said. Travel around to different rinks, entering different competitions for prize money. When the Depression hit in 1930s, these were few and far between, and so there wasn't as big of a need for professional speed skaters. Prior to then, if you were good enough, you could actually make a living as a full-time speed skater, and you could do well enough to support your family by speed skating. But when the Depression hit, the focus shifted from professional skating to amateur skating. A lot of the professional skaters opened up their own rinks. They became teachers and taught people the proper techniques on how to speed skate. So modern speed skating, like I said, is more amateur-based. I previously said in 1937 they created the first national indoor championships for roller skating. The first 2 years were both speed skating. 1937 was hosted in Detroit, Michigan, and that's where they had founded the RSROA, as I had previously said, 1937 in Detroit. So more modern speed skating, amateur-based. So since the 1937 season, we've had annual national roller skating championships every year except for 1945. So amateur speed skating, you have relay races or you can skate individually, all for medals or trophies. So there's divisions from tiny tots all the way to senior and beyond for speed skating. Third type of competitive skating I want to talk about today is roller hockey. Roller hockey has been around since the late 1870s. The first roller hockey organization in the United States was created in 1884. But you can see a picture here. This is a postcard with the date 1878 on the postcard here. You can see the different uniforms that they would wear for roller hockey. I'm going to talk about polo and ball hockey, as well as puck and inline hockey. All of roller hockey started off as polo. Polo was big back then. You had the short cane sticks. They would do field hockey, polo games like that. And this then emerged into roller skating as roller skating became popular with Plimpton's invention and becoming onto the four-wheeled quad skates. They adapted field polo, field hockey onto roller skates. So early roller polo, you could see the types of outfits that they would wear, basically just matching t-shirts and shorts. You can see no real safety equipment on any of these gentlemen here. They had the shorter cane sticks for their polo game. More modern hockey, they do indoors in rinks. Rink hockey is done basically on the quad skates, the four-wheeled skates, and they have very little padding for rink hockey. Rink hockey, you have to base your play on stick movement, skating skills, stopping and starting, and things like that. The one main difference between roller hockey and ice hockey is roller hockey is a non-contact sport. So unlike ice skating, where you can slam your opponents into the side of the boards, this is not allowed in roller hockey. And like I said, more stick movement and skating goes into the roller hockey. The second type of modern hockey we have is inline hockey. Inline hockey, of course, on inline skates. It's just a different form of inline hockey. You can see they have more padding for the inline hockey. Helmets, gloves, different guards and padding and things like that. The United States is still very active in roller hockey. For the 2013 World Games, the United States men took the gold medal in international world hockey. At the 2013 World Championships, the United States women took the gold medal in inline world hockey. So we are very active in inline hockey today. It's just not as seen as popular here in the Midwest. If you look at the rosters of the different inline hockey teams, you'll see a lot of coastal regions. California on the West Coast, a lot of New York, Florida teams, participants that are chosen for the inline world championships as well. But roller hockey is still very active here in our country, and we still do very well. Roller derby, the fourth type of competitive skating I want to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the history and the early rules and how that differentiates from today's rules. We'll then get into the modern rules and then follow up with today's roller derby. Roller derby started in 1935. It was an endurance race. The very first roller derby match was in Chicago at the Coliseum in Chicago in 1935. So teams of two, one male and one female, would enter the derby. The first derby had about 25 teams. So the object of the derby was for each team to complete a total of 3,000 miles for skating. And to do this, one member of each team had to be skating at all times, and the skating sessions lasted 12 hours a day. So one person from your team had to be skating at all times for an entire 12-hour session. They had different minimum requirements you had to meet. If your team did not skate the minimum amount of miles that day, you would be disqualified. If someone from your team was not on the track at one time, your team would be disqualified. So they had similar rules like this to promote faster skating for these roller derby teams. This here is a picture of McKay and Martin. They were the winners of the very first transcontinental roller derby team. I told you the original derby had about 25 teams participate. Only half of the teams actually finished due to injury, due to not making their required amount of distance for that time. A lot of people were injured over that time. You can imagine how long skating 3,000 miles would last. This first race lasted about a month and a half. So they would skate 7 days a week for 12 hours a day, going back and forth between the pair, and they had to complete this roller derby. That's why they call it derby. It was supposed to be the distance from San Francisco to New York City. So the 3,000-mile distance is why they called it the Transcontinental Roller Derby. Well, as you can imagine, if a race lasts for a month and a half, 2 months, who's going to come up and show up every day and watch? So they added different games to try to get more participation involved with the crowds. But as I said, if it lasts that long, you're going to have to change the rules up a little bit. So in the 1937, about a year and a half after these original rules, they decided to change up the rules. They added more people to the track at one time, and you get the more modern derby rules like we have today. So like I said, late 1930s, they switched the rules for roller derby. The main one is they added contact. So instead of teams of 2 on the track at each time, they would have 2 teams, but 5 people on each team at a track at one time. And the goal of the modern roller derby rules is to whichever team scores the most points. So on each roller derby team, there is someone called a jammer, and she's supposed to wear a star on her helmet, he or she. The jammer's job is to score all the points for the team. So to do this, the jammer has to travel around the entire course and then pass other people on the opposite team. And every time the jammer passes an opponent, her team gets a point. It is everyone else's job to not let this happen. So they can throw a shoulder here and there, they can elbow someone within the rules and knock them over and not allow the jammer to score the point. So you can see an instance here of the contact they would have. This looks a little more posed. She seems to be knowing the camera's there. But this is how roller derby, the more modern roller derby rules occurred. Today's roller derby, USA Roller Sports tells me that roller derby is by far the most participated in aspect that they have for registration at their roller sports organization. Roller derby springing up in all the states. I believe 49 of the 50 states have a roller derby team. Not really sure which one hasn't jumped on board yet. But here in Lincoln, we have one team. They're called the No Coast Derby Girls. And here's a roster shot of their team from this last season. You can see it's a very large group of women. They have an A team and a B team. So when you go watch a bout, you will get to see 2 matches every time. They play different teams from around the region. Kansas City will come up and travel. Omaha, Wichita, places like this. Sioux Falls will come and play our roller derby team, as well as our team will travel out and play teams as well. Early roller derby, it was a paid sport. If you were on the team, you did get a stipend for playing, and that was your job. You would travel with the company, and you would play different tours around the country. Today's roller derby is all volunteer-based. So our No Coast Derby Girls are a nonprofit organization. And so all the money that they raise for their roller skating bouts goes into their travel. So they raise money by selling different apparel and doing fundraisers and sort to help pay for their travel. None of them are paid on the side. It's all individual based. To participate on a team, the Lincoln team tells me you have to practice 3 times a week to stay eligible to be on the team. So you can see of all of these, this whole roster here, not everybody gets to play all the time. It's just who is available to practice and who the best skaters are from week to week. Depends on who gets to play for their match. For the 2013 season, our team did very well. The Lincoln No Coast Derby Girls finished with a record of 13-2. So they did very well for this season. They made it to the regional competitions but didn't make it on to nationals. But they did have a very successful season this year. The last one quickly I want to mention is jam skating. Jam skating is becoming more popular, especially up on the East Coast, but it is traveling across the country. I know Denver participates in jam skating as well as more of a closer example. Jam skating is basically breakdancing on roller skates. So people flip around and spin around and jump and do flips and all sorts of things on roller skates, and this is called jam skating. Now, throughout the years, there have been many types of roller skating shows that would travel the country. do different things to entertain the public. So I'm going to mention two today. I'm going to mention some vaudeville acts for roller skating as well as the skating vanities. Skating in vaudeville, of course, you're all familiar with the vaudeville era. Turn of the 20th century, they had a lot of different variety shows, singing, dancing, juggling, clowns, comedy, what have you. Roller skating was part of traveling vaudeville shows. And there were famous couples that would participate in the vaudeville skating and travel the country. This is an example here of Jessie Darling with her partner, Henry Simmons, and they were one of the premier groups for the traveling vaudeville shows. The Franks were also another example of different vaudeville shows, and they would skate around, tour the country, just as the vaudeville shows would. Skating Vanities. The Skating Vanities were a traveling roller skating show in the 1940s and the 1950s. Men and women dressed up in bright, elaborate costumes. You could have 100 people in this troupe. It was a very large group of skaters that would travel the country. So they played in all the largest cities. They had world tours in South America and Europe, skated for audiences in front of the Pope and even the Queen of England. You can see from here the different elaborate costumes they would have, big feathered headdresses, very shiny outfits and things like this. The main headliner of the Skating Vanities was Miss Gloria Nord. She was the premier skater at that time for artistic skating for the Skating Vanities. We have a lot of our collection on the Skating Vanities because of Gloria Nord and her donations to our museum. She donated a lot of her original dresses and skates, photographs, as well as even her personal travel trunk is on display at the museum, which is almost as tall as I am. And Gloria Nord was only about 5 feet tall, so she stood just about as tall as the travel trunk. And we have pictures of her getting ready using this travel trunk as well. So a lot of our collection is based through her. Now I'm going to talk about some different features here that we have at the museum, and I'll go through these individually. I'll talk about some unusual skates that we have, as well as the importance of music in roller rinks, followed by Rink Stickers, an example of one of our interactive displays, our wheel wall, and then I'll end with different artwork that we have. Now, we have two types of motorized skates in our collection. First one I have pictured here, a gentleman from Fremont, Nebraska, Vannurden Quay, decided it was a good idea to strap a chainsaw motor to the toe of his roller skate. So this is a yellow chainsaw motor that he attached to the left skate on one of his roller skates. So you can see how it was powered. You have the drive shaft there would power the different wheel, and this would only power the left skate. You would use the right skate and put in front of you to steer, help you steer around and turn corners. This skate was said to go up to 30 miles an hour. Mr. Quay was even invited to the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in 1990 to display his skates. So we have a card there, his card from the Tonight Show, as well as pictures of him with Johnny Carson. He also gave us a video of the segment while he was on the Johnny Carson show. The other motorized skate we have is a little larger. It's actually a motor that is large enough to strap to your back, like a backpack, weighing about 20 pounds. And this has a large hose that's connected to the right skate to give it power as well. And you put the left foot in front to steer. And this skate, built in the 1950s, goes up to 40 miles an hour. So we have a 40-mile-an-hour roller skate, and this one goes 30 miles an hour. We have different animal skates, along with all the pictures of different animals such as dogs and cats and birds, monkeys. We have a picture here with a horse on roller skates. We actually have a skate for the horse as well in our display with a picture of the horse in the background. I met with someone who actually got to see one of these horses on roller skates, said it did very well and never fell. So I don't know how dangerous it would be, but I've seen multiple pictures of horses on roller skates like this one. We also have a skate for a bear, as well as a skate for a small cockatoo. We have different all-terrain skates as well, multi-surface skates. This one here is an Austrian skate with the name a skike. So this is called skike. They combine the term skate and bike to come up with this idea. You can see this skate is a little longer than normal. Instead of having the wheels underneath of the plate, they have them out in front and in back. This is meant for cross-country skating. So in Austria, cross-country skiing is very popular, so they wanted to translate that to the summertime where you can go at different parks and recreation areas and still travel the landscape, but on wheels. So we have this skate here, has inflatable tires. The brake is on the back, and you just tilt your foot back, and the yellow brake is able to stop the rear wheel. Another example of an all-terrain skate we have is called a Scorpion Skates. It's a four-wheeled quad skate, but with very large wheels. These wheels are about 140 millimeters, so larger than those inline wheels that I showed you before. They are made of plastic, and they are meant to go on different terrains as well. And this skate has shock absorbers on each of the different wheels. At one of our national roller skating conventions, I met a gentleman who was skating around on a pair of cowboy boot skates. Of course, he is from Texas. So I introduced myself, told him I worked at the museum and would love to have a pair of these cowboy boot skates. Not only did he give me the pair that he is wearing, the larger pair up there, but also a small child's pair of cowboy boot skates as well. I then have a picture of him with his family next to the display there for our cowboy boot skates. Now music. Music was a very important part of the roller skating atmosphere throughout history. The different types of music they started with live music. Early roller skating rinks had all live music. They would have small orchestras up in the loft. They would have brass bands come and play at the different roller skating rinks. They then switched over to more organ music. 1920s, 1930s, they had electric organs starting to come into play, and organ music with a Wurlitzer organ, with a Hammond organ, really became the sound of a roller skating rink and helped that flow go while you were skating along. The disco era entered into the picture, late 1970s, 1980s. Really enlivened roller skating at that time period, 5-6 year period. Everybody went to the roller skating rink and participated in disco skating. Really got the blood going, very fast and active roller skating. When disco ended up leaving the scene, we had a gradual shift to more radio pop music, more digital music of today. One example of organ music that we have at the museum is a photograph right here of what is called a band organ. This is a pre-1930s instrument that was used in roller rinks. So before the big Wurlitzer organ, before the Hammond organ, they would use a machine like this to create the musical sounds at the roller rink. Now this is a reproduction that we had made specifically for us, but it is in tune with the designs from the 1920s. So it has a player piano roll at the bottom, and if you insert a quarter, you can hear a song 1-2 minutes long using all the different instruments on our band organ. You can see the pipes in the middle. There's a xylophone in the back, as well as a snare drum and a bass drum above, along with a tambourine, a triangle, and a cymbal. So we have different types of instruments used for this band organ. The pipes in the middle were originally made of wood, but due to the times here, the ability for upkeep, we elected to make the pipes out of a synthetic material just for a better sound so it doesn't go out of tune all the time as well. This is an example of a 1920s era band organ. Rink stickers. Most roller rinks throughout the 20th century created a rink sticker specific to their roller rink. These stickers were handed out or sold at their rinks to all the patrons that skated in their rink. So I have an example here from a Nebraska rink. I thought that would be appropriate in a Nebraska rink. And you can see the different type, this specific example of how they worked roller skating onto a sticker. This was a very common design using a skate with wings, a big theme throughout the different rink stickers. But all of the rink stickers created throughout the United States had little different nuances that made the rink sticker their own. So most of them do not copy the same type of design. We have these on display, organized by state, as well as many that we're unable to show on display because we have thousands and thousands of rink stickers. This was also very popular for trading. People would trade the skating stickers between each other. The point of having a sticker is to stick it on your skate case. So you put it on the box that holds your skates, and you can line it with stickers and show everyone all the different skating rinks that you have skated in. They even created a skating sticker exchange program, and you could be a member of the Skating Rink Stickers Exchange Program by paying annual dues. They had an annual conference that you could exchange different stickers at, but if you were part of the organization, you were not allowed to trade stickers with people that were not in the organization. They could blackball you if they caught you doing this, throw you out of the organization. So it was a very specific organization that they had just for the roller skating rink stickers. One of our interactive displays here is our wheel wall. Starting from the 1860s through just about the turn of the 21st century, we have different types of roller skating wheels and how they have varied over time. The first row of wheels up there do not have what is called the loose ball bearings. So if you spin the wheels on the first row, they do not spin very long. Early wheels did not have the ball bearing featured in them. The ball bearing was introduced by the Richardson Ball Bearing Company in 1884. So if you go to the second row of wheels, you can see the different loose ball bearings in the wheels themselves, and then if you spin it, you can tell the difference. It spins a lot longer. The ball bearings reduce the friction that was created with these wheels, gave you a longer roll and a smoother roll than without the ball bearings. The wooden wheels were used inside, and the metal wheels were used outside. They then started creating different composites, urethanes, and plastics to create their roller skating wheels to make them last longer. A lot of wooden wheels would chip. You'd have to have them sanded down, grinded down all the time until they were nothing, then you'd have to buy new wheels. So they created different composites for roller skating wheels that they have today, and the bottom rows are for the inline roller skating wheels. Artwork, we have different paintings, we have different sketches, original posters from the different time periods for our artwork. We have a series of skating couples, oil paintings from the 1940s. They were originally from the Chicago Roller Skating Company, and they hung up in their headquarter building in Chicago. They had put them on loan to us in the 1980s when they switched ownerships. The new owners gave us the different artwork from the Chicago Skating Company. That ends my presentation. Are there any questions from anyone? Yes, miss.
How do we get into that museum?
We have our parking lot is on the north side of the building.
Right.
So it is just off of 48th Street. So you have to come in on 48th Street. Our parking lot is on the north side. Our main entrance then is on the south side. So you need to walk around to the front of the building and use our main south entrance. There's also a handicap entrance that directly links to the parking lot that can be used as well.
So you're open all the time?
We are open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Yes. Yes, sir.
Any roller rinks in Lincoln anymore?
There's one rink here in Lincoln. It is called Skate Zone, and it is on 48th and O Street, just north of the intersection, across from Target. It was originally called the Arena, but it has always been in that location. One of our displays discusses rinks in Nebraska and specifically in Lincoln, all the different locations and the time periods for the different rinks. The last rink to close in Lincoln was in 2009. It was A&R, and that was on 40th and Old Cheney. So since 2009, we only have one rink. This picture here that I chose to end, this is what is called the Grand March. for different skating sessions. They would have a grand march for people to skate around, join together, meet new people as a big event that they would have weekly at a roller rink. This is located at the Arena Gardens in Detroit, Michigan in the 1930s, 1940s era.
How many skate centers in Nebraska now?
There's around, I would say, 10 skating rinks in the state of Nebraska. I believe Gering still has one. Superior has a rink that is owned by the city. The owners of the rink had donated their rink on their death to the city, and so it's only open on weekends. Bellevue has a rink, Omaha, and Grand Island has a rink. And so there's about 10 different rinks, I would say. The peak number in history? In history? Well, roller skating has gone through different phases in popularity over time. With Mr. Plimpton's invention in the 1860s, roller skating hit its very biggest first boom period, 1870s through the 1890s. Only the Plimpton skate was really around at that time, so Mr. Plimpton made a lot of money through his invention of his Plimpton skate. But since that was the first peak, everybody started skating, rinks started opening up across the country, new manufacturers went into play, and so more and more skating manufacturers and skates were available. The Winslow Skate Company out of Massachusetts, the Henley Skate Company out of Indiana. A lot of different companies opened up because of the first influx for roller skating participation. After the turn of the 20th century, you had labor laws enacted, for example, in the United States. So prior to then, most of the workforce worked 10, 12-hour days and did not have enough leisure time to go roller skating. So a lot of the skating prior to that was upper class because they had enough time for the leisure activity. So with the labor laws enacted, more and more people started roller skating because the workday went down to 8 hours a day. And so more and more people started skating, and this was another big influx in roller skating at that time. Post-World War II had another big resurgence for roller skating. Roller derby became very popular in 1950s, 1960s. It was introduced on television. Then the disco era hit, late 1970s, early 1980s. That was also a large influx for people. It dipped again for a few years after disco, but then the introduction of the inline skate, the reintroduction of the inline skate in the late 1980s by the rollerblade company really helped roller skating kick off as well. As I mentioned earlier, the first roller skates were all inline, so inline was not a new concept, but once Mr. Plimpton came out with his four-wheeled quad skates, that's where everyone turned their attention. Companies still made one line of inline skates here and there, they just weren't popular. They all were with the quad skates. But with the rollerblade company coming into the picture in the 1980s, they did their focus on their inline skate as more of a fitness tool as opposed to a recreational activity. So there was a big health craze, 1980s. The inline skate really helped drive that, and the inline skate became very popular because of the rollerblade company. So now even today, when you see inline skates, people think of rollerblading as synonymous with the term inline skating. Rollerblade is just a company that makes inline skates, but rollerblading has become the term used because of inline skating. Nowadays, with the influx of roller derby and the participation that way, we're hoping roller skating will continue to grow and be on another upward trend today.
How many rinks were there ever in the nation totally, do you think?
There were thousands. I wouldn't say 10,000, but I would say 6,000, 7,000 roller rinks easy at one time. They're probably in the 1,000 to 2,000 range now, not as many. It just depends on the city. I know a city like Lincoln here, we could feasibly have more than one rink, but it just all depends. A lot of small towns still try to keep their roller rink going. It just depends on the town and what they do. That's what the Roller Skating Association in Indianapolis is for all the rink owners to participate. They have about 750, 800 members right now of rinks in the United States, but not all rinks, of course, are part of the organization, as go with any business. Not everybody's a participant. I do skate, nothing competitively, just for fun. We did school skates, skating on the weekends and things like that. I grew up in the 1980s when I was very little, and so I got to introduced to the inline skate very early with the rollerblade craze. So I'm more of an inline skater, and I don't work as well on quad skates, but I can do both.
Do they still make the skates that you clip onto your
They do not make any more clamp-on skates as far as I'm concerned, and unless you count skates like my all-terrain skate here. You can put those on. They don't clamp on, but you can use your own shoe. Generally, most of the skates have the built-in boot, yes.
Well, how rough a terrain do they go across with those things? They look like they're so low hung that they're not going to cover, they're going to hang up on them.
Well, these, like I said, are from Austria. They were created in Austria. And so these are, I know the Alps are there. I'm sure you don't roller skate on the Alps, but they have the large inflatable tires that you can see, so they do have some traction. They're mainly meant to go on dirt paths, maybe some grass and things like that. With this specific skate, when they donated this pair of skates to our museum, they included a kit, and the kit included a pair of poles that they would use. So they recommend using poles with these, as well as safety equipment, helmets and padding and things like that on cross-country skating. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and I appreciate the Nebraska State Historical Society letting me speak today.